Hi guys, just your all doing well today. Welcome to my YouTube channel, CPM Stack with Toluwole. Let's get right into it. In today's module, we'll be discussing API product management strategy. Most people think API are just technical tools for developers only. But in reality, some of the biggest tech companies in the world, think about the likes of Google, Twitter, Stripe, Paystack, PayPal today. They built an entire business around API as a product. In this module, we are going to be teaching you how to think about API as not just as a code, but as a product that can help you drive growth, revenue, and also help you build your product ecosystem. By the end of this module, you understand how API serve different business needs, how API can also be designed for developers in a way they can love it, understand it, like I literally build a product that is developer friendly, right? And how you can also help your company monetize their API. Today, probably your company is not monetizing their API. So let's start with the foundation by looking at types of API. First thing first, right? Not all APIs are built for the same purpose. We have three major types of APIs today. We have the private APIs, the public APIs, and we also have the partners APIs. The types of API you build directly impacts how you structure the API design, the security around the API, right? How do people access this API, right? Do they need API key? Do they need to get authorized or authenticated before they can even use this service, right? It will also help inform the monetization strategy of using your API. So let's start by looking at public API. According to my definition here, a public API is an interface that is openly available to external developers and organizations. It allows third parties to integrate with a company's platform and build applications or services on top of it. A well-known example of this is Google Maps API. Google made its mapping and location service publicly available so companies building ride-hailing applications, delivery platforms, or travel services, right, are able to use this map instead of having to build from the scratch a map or a location related services. They can simply use Google Maps API. So why do companies make their APIs or their features or their services publicly available via APIs? Number one, for brand visibility. Secondly, expand their digital ecosystem and also grow their platform. It's important to clarify that just because the API is made available publicly does not necessarily mean it's free. Businesses make money. A typical example is Stripe makes their API publicly accessible today, but they charge you for transaction. Secondly, we'll be looking at private APIs. These APIs are privately built. Secondly, we'll be looking at private APIs. Private APIs are strictly built for internal use within an organization. They are not exposed to external user. So why do companies even build private APIs? They build it for two major things majorly, right? The first is efficiency and reliability. In our last module, we spoke about monolithic architecture and microservice architecture. You most likely find private APIs being built in line with microservice type of architecture, where different services communicate with each other using internal APIs. Take for instance, we have an e-commerce platform. The e-commerce platform have different services or different features. We have the user management service, we have the billing service, we have the ordering service, we also have the inventory related service. Billing service is able to talk to user service via internal APIs, where you're able to accurately bill a customer for services they've purchased on your platform. Inventory is also able to talk to other services where they're able to keep accurate record of who has ordered what item is left in terms of count, in terms of quality, in terms of sizes. Private APIs help companies or large systems scale without being worried about tightly coupled platform like the monolithic platform. Lastly, we'll be looking at partners API. This API that shared with selected businesses or trusted partner. A common example is banking industry today, exposing their APIs to fintechs for services ranging from payment processing, account access, other financial related services. It could also be data related access as well for credit scoring. Right, we now have AI industry building credit scoring capability, intelligence, helping banks make sense of this data. And we also have fintechs relying on that. We've seen how open banking is becoming a thing across the globe. But this type of APIs help in facilitating this kind of collaboration. In many cases, these types of APIs documentations are publicly visible, but you actually need access, right? Before you can even access this solution, you need to go through certain processes, setup needs to be done for you, approval is literally required before you can even access this type of APIs. In this section, we'll be talking about API product strategy. This is where we'll start talking about turning your business or your company APIs into real products. The first question you must answer is, what problem does this API solve? As a TPM, you look within your system, you look between the kind of service you offer today, right? The type of capabilities you have internally today, and identify what can we solve, what problem can we solve with this API today within in today's market. Is it payment? Is it data access? Is it automation? Is it system integration? The clearer the problem, the easier it is for developers or businesses to adopt your API. So it's important for you to understand or identify what problem can you solve with your existing infrastructure and capabilities. Secondly, ask yourself, who is this API built for? Who is my target audience? Why am I building it? And who am I building this API for? Is it for internal developers, external startup, enterprises, or partners? Understanding your audience will influence how you design your API, how you write your documentation, your pricing strategy, and your support strategy. Lastly, you need to be able to understand or answer the question, how do we monetize it? There are several common ways APIs are being monetized today. We have pay as you go, which is basically pay per request usage. We also have the subscription model. We have the freemium access, right? The freemium access, the way the freemium works is you are giving certain access for sometimes some people make it time based and some people make it request based, right? Depending on the industry. We can look at that at a later time, right? And we also have revenue sharing kind of approach. In this section, we'll be looking at API design and scalability strategy. As a product manager, it's important for you to have some of these capabilities embedded in your APIs, or even start thinking about early enough while you're trying to build out your API strategy for your current organization. First, we'll look at API versioning. What is API versioning? API versioning is the practice of managing the changes to an API over time by releasing different versions so improvement can be made without breaking existing users' integration. What are we trying to say in essence? So what are we saying in essence? API don't stay the same forever. They evolve. Hence why there's a need for us to version it. I want to believe you must have seen scenarios where you must have heard, oh, version 1 of API, version 2, version 3, version 4, version 5. As of today, there are two major types of API changes. We have the breaking changes and the non-breaking changes. Let's start by looking at breaking changes. These APIs Let's start by looking at breaking changes. These changes require developers to update their implementation. Take, for example, removing of a name field. So, what are we saying in essence? Take, for instance, I'm integrated with your system, and every time I call your system, or as at the point of integration, your system basically returns five fields, which is the first name, last name, age, marital status, and your position in the family or your job title. I've built my system or my solution around these five data sets. And all of a sudden, my partner or my provider makes an update to the API. They choose to remove job title from those API. It means when next I call their API, instead of getting five information, now I'm getting four information. That kind of change will break my system because my system has been designed in such a way that it's expecting five sets of information from your system. But when it's getting four, the system does not is not intelligent enough to understand what is going on. It just automatically has. Hence, I will experience disruption in my own service. What is non-breaking changes? What is non-breaking changes? These are changes that can be introduced without impacting existing user. A typical example is adding a new input field. Let's use the example we used before. My system basically expects five information from you. Because of your generosity as a provider, you've added additional three information, maybe um, salary range, country, and you've also had information about my financial history or my credit scoring information, right? Because you're a good provider, right? My system is still when my system makes a call to your API, the five information my system have been built around will still be returned to me. However, I'm not getting the additional three information. But at my own leisure time, I can update my system or my application to cater for the additional three informations you've provided, right? Those kind of changes does not break my system because my system has been built around for that five, and it's still gonna your service is still going to provide me that five information as we agreed, right? So those type of changes don't break your system. So why does versioning matters? Versioning helps you ensure that new updates don't disrupt existing users. Developers can integrate safely with your system, where they can choose to probably integrate with version 1 of your application or version 2. As a TPM, versioning should always be part of your API design strategy. Now, let's look at pagination. What is pagination? Pagination divides large set of data into manageable page. What am I trying to say in essence? Take for instance, I have a business with over 2 million users and I have an endpoint exposed to my customer saying get all customer information, right? What this endpoint does is it returns the whole information of all my customers, right? Ranging from their name, first name, last name, all of those information, their biodata, and it has to return 200 of them. Just one API call to handling that might take forever to load. The response will definitely be slow. So what technologists have done is to ensure that APIs, right, data can be returned in pages, just the way you have in your exercise book or in your textbook today. You have page one, page two. They've also been able to translate that into how API returns data or returns information. A typical example is what we have here. It says when you query the APIs on put in the query parameter to be return page 2, right? And under page 2, limit the API response to just 50. What this is saying in essence is that, right, I'm telling the API that give me information in page 2, right? But for that page 2, limit the numbers of informations or the numbers of informations in that API to just 50 or to that in that page to just 50. However, you can also have other people increase it to say give me information in page 2, however limit it to just 100, right? So you're able to maneuver that information. However, it's important that you're able to put in pagination to ensure that you're able to your response time for your API is very good, and it also reduces the server load on your infrastructure in itself. As a TPM, it's important for you to have pagination as part of your API design strategy. Thirdly, we'll be looking at filtering. As APIs grows, they often return large amount of data. Filtering helps you control that. Filtering allows users to narrow their results based on certain conditions, right? Take for instance, we have status, right? The query parameter here is status equals to completed date 2026. What this is saying is that I want the APIs or the response from the API to show me only information of people that have the status as completed and the data as 2026. So the what the API does is it goes into this database and it checks for people or data or information that meet this criteria, and it returns it to the customer or the business or the developer. As a TPM, looking at building API platform, filtering is one of the key importance that your API should be able to have. It will help improve performance of your platform and the usability of your API. We'll be looking at partial response. What is partial response? This is closely related to filtering. However, instead of returning the full data object, user can request for only fields that they need. Take for instance, we have fields equals to ID, amount, and status. What does this mean? You have an information or a data or a table. The table contains users' information like the about data, right? And take for instance, each user have about 15 items or 15 informations, right? As a developer, I only need 3 informations. I don't need the whole 15 information, right? Your API should be structured or designed in a way that people are able to query by certain fields that they need, right? What we have here is the customer is querying by ID. I want to be able to get the ID. The API response should show me the customer ID. It should show me the amount and the status. Instead of returning the whole of the 15 information, I'm telling the API to return just 3 information. As a TPM, when you build your API or design your API in such a way that it's able to address to partial response, it helps improve API efficiency and also payload size, right? So in this way, I'm not getting unnecessary information. I'm only able to get the information that pertains to me or that I find very, very important or helpful. Lastly, we'll be looking at rate limiting. What is rate limiting? Rate limiting is a mechanism used to control how users or application can make requests to an API within. What does this mean? Rate limiting helps prevent system abuse, system overloads, and also ensure fair usage of the system in itself. Today, there are 3 major types of rate limiting. We have fixed rate limiting. This approach allows specific numbers of requests within a defined window time frame. A typical example of this is I can design my API in such a way that you are only able to make 100 requests per minute. Secondly, we have tier-based limit. With tier-based limit, different plans get different access usage. Example, people in freemium mode could probably be making I can design my API to allow them basically make 100 API calls per day. People on Pro, I can limit the API to just 10,000 APIs per day or 100,000 API per day. People that have enterprise access, I can choose to make my API unlimited to them. Right? What that means is they can call my API as much as they can. So why does rate limiting matter? From a product perspective, rate limiting also connects directly to pricing and monetization strategy. It's as simple as that. Thank you for joining us today in this lesson. If you find this lesson very helpful, kindly like the video, subscribe, or drop a question for us in the comment section. See you in our next module. Have a great day.